Hey, this is Garrett, the producer of Connecting ALS. On Wednesday, we were fortunate to have Gary and Kathy in the Connectivity Center. They were here to share their experiences as caregivers with our support group as part of National Caregivers Month. Each had a lot to say, and we felt like this was something worth sharing for those who could not be in attendance.
So I will turn it over to the two of you, unless you want further introduction. Okay. Gary, Kathy.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming.
So I guess I'll introduce myself. My name is Kathy, and actually my husband died, it will be 5 years ago on Monday. So quite a while, but not really. And I still miss him, but life goes on, and I have 2 adult children that have gotten married. I have a boyfriend that I've met. And I retired, and I'm traveling and doing things. So I just remember that I came to a meeting like this, and I met a man who happened to be named Jeff. And one of the things, and so he also had lost his spouse. That was a couple of years ago. And just seeing that, he was comfortable and that things were moving on and that he was actually okay, really gave me a lot of hope for myself, that then allowed me to focus on all the things I needed to do and just not worry about that part. And so I just wanted to maybe give that message because it was really helpful to me. So anyway.
Gary, my wife died a little over 3.5 years ago. Like Kathy said, it 3.5 years sounds like a long time, and sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. I also have 2 grown children. I have 3 grandchildren. Babysat the youngest one yesterday and the 2 older ones tomorrow. I worked for a couple of years after she died and retired just over a year ago. Took a year off not doing anything, did a lot of traveling, and I now started volunteering to help out here. The people here, as I'm sure you all know, they're angels. These can't say enough good things about them, and so I thought I'd return some of what I got from them. That's about it for me.
So I think we're supposed to answer questions, or if you have topics that you are top of mind that you would like us to comment on, or I have a couple notes too. I don't know where.
Yeah, I want to comment about the caregivers. I went to the caregivers meeting for probably a couple of years, and I got a lot out of it. I had gone once right after the diagnosis and thought, oh, I don't need this. But after a while, I thought, well, maybe I'll go back again. And then I was a regular. It was good to hear other people talk about their experiences. It was a very strong learning experience and also a way to share what I had experienced. And I found that caregivers meetings were very, very useful and very helpful.
So I don't know, do you still have the one that's online? Mm-hmm. So I would participate in a caregivers meeting that was online. Well, you listened in. It was like a phone conference call or something like that, and it worked really convenient because I had the flexibility at work to be able to schedule that as a meeting on my calendar, and then I would listen in. And it was interesting because it was throughout the Minnesota and North Dakota for people that actually didn't live in the Twin Cities, but it was actually really helpful too. And so I would echo Gary's thoughts on that, but that was a different way to kind of access the same thing. So that was helpful.
I just wanted to hear a little bit more about your wife and your husband, like how old they were and how long they lived with ALS, and
Sure.
Just a personal note.
So my husband, let's see, I got to figure this out. He died when he was 60, so he must have been 56. And so he lived with ALS for about 3 years. So he wasn't quite 60. And it's kind of weird because we were a very athletic family, and we camped and hiked and skied and did all sorts of kinds of stuff. And it kind of started, and we were in a master ski training group, and it's like, he's like, Kath, look at this. And like his muscles are just popping like all over in weird places. And, we were like, okay, well, that's really weird. And it kept going. And then he would start losing strength. And that's when he started seeing a doctor. And so let's see, kind of symptoms were maybe like May, June, and then a diagnosis in December. And then pretty much 3 years after that is when he passed away. Right. I would say that the first year and a half, you're sad and you have a lot of, you're nervous and you got a lot of things going on, but we're actually not that difficult in terms of, managing living and daily living chores and stuff like that. Last 9 months were definitely a lot more challenging. And my advice to everybody is, just you got to make decisions. And what I think was really hard for us was you still don't want any of this to happen. And that it's like, well, like we don't need to worry about that yet. Well, the minute you think that you need to worry about it is the time that you actually should act, so that you're kind of ahead of the game, and you just end up just being behind. And so if you can mentally get yourself to the place that when you think of it, you need to make a decision about it. I mean, I'm thinking about, stair type of devices to help going up and down the stairs and stuff. Just accommodations in your house, like thresholds. And it's like the place that was the biggest problem was our friggin' front door, because it was like flat. It was supposed to be level, right? But it was actually an inch gap. And you're just like, geez. And I mean, there's things that will solve every problem that you have if you just know that it's going to be a problem. So those kind of things. So.
My wife was diagnosed in February of 2011. She had foot droop, where the front of your foot won't lift up, and went in. She actually worked for a neurology clinic, so she had it checked out, and so that's when we found out. And she died in February 2016. So she got 5 years. Started in her feet, kind of worked its way up, and her hands worked its way in. We were also hikers, so that kind of went by the wayside. But she worked for probably about a year and a half after the diagnosis, and then stayed home. From what Kathy was saying about acting on things, I anyway took it as a one day at a time sort of thing, because I found that if I was trying to look too far in the future, I got scared, and so I shortened up how far in the future I was going to look. Diagnosed in February. We had a 2-story house, which obviously wasn't going to work. So by July, we had sold it, moved into a 1-story. And we had actually come to one of these meetings. I had come to one of these meetings, and that particular meeting was about access. So access to a house, access to vehicles. And I got a lot of good information out of that. Decided not to put a ramp in outside because I didn't like the thought of that. A ramp inside the garage would have meant room for one car. So we actually got an elevator by the back door. It takes up minimal space, easy on, easy off. We've got a minivan. You can get the side or you can get the rear. And from what I had gathered from the meeting, I went with the rear entry because you can park anywhere. And with the side, you always got to find that parking spot where you got room on the side. So went with the rear entry.
That would be a good idea for another reason too, because if you come in this side, you have to come in and then you have to turn.
Yep.
And making that turn was not always
Yeah, and then
easy.
you had to have that lift.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rear entry, you just drive straight in, and she parked right behind the drivers, and she could park, somebody else sitting there, we could talk and chat, and she'd back out. It was a manual ramp, but it was made out of aluminum, so probably weighed maybe 15 pounds, so it was a breeze to open it up. Probably a conversation for another time.
Can I add something about the ramps and the vehicles though? What we first had was like a strapping mechanism, and doing it in the rain in December was like not cool, right? And so it was really limiting on the amount of times you go out, because it's like, okay, open this door, do this, come around back, do this, over here, do this, over here, do this, and it's like, really, this is ridiculous. But when we found out that you can get like it's like a key that's on the bottom of the wheelchair that then hooks into like a thing like this, and you just drive into it and it locks, and it's like, oh my god, this is like so much easier. And then like, like it didn't matter if we did 5 stops or 2 stops or whatever, it didn't matter what the weather was, because you did it in the garage. It was just like, oh, so much better. So I'm a big advocate of the key on the thing. Yeah.
And one thing I need to point out, and I'm sure you hear about it in all these meetings, these are our experiences.
Yeah.
And yours are going to differ. But it just, like I said, it's hearing other people and how they solve problems. It may help you. So that's why I'm saying this stuff. Yeah.
Excuse me, the rear van, did you ever have any problems, like in a parking lot, people having to wait? And
No, I actually.
That's what we're kind of.
Yeah, no, because it doesn't go out into traffic. It only came out probably about so far. So, and I got an orange traffic cone at the hardware store. So I'd lower the ramp, put the orange cone out there, and no, we never had any problem with people waiting on us.
Okay, good, thank you.
Answer everything? Okay.
I was also curious, as caregivers, what was the source of the biggest support for you? You both mentioned the ALS Association. They are definitely very, very helpful, but how did you navigate times that you really needed some additional help? Or
Well, we were fortunate enough that the fall before her diagnosis, we'd gotten long-term care insurance. And so that paid for caregivers. So I could go to work and the whole time, and there'd be somebody there with her. So most fortuitous. But the ALS Association also has the respite program. And that's one thing that I found very useful. It was nice to know that I could take off for 3 hours on a weekend and go shopping, run errands, just sit and read somewhere at the library or something, and know that there was somebody, at home with my wife taking care of her. So the respite program was big. They're also tied in with the Sing thing, and that does the speech recognition and all that kind of stuff. So that was a biggie. But as like I said, the people that work here, they'll do anything for you. I'm sure you're all familiar with the loan closet. Wow.
Loan closet is awesome.
That, if you're not using the loan closet, man, you're missing out on something.
Yeah, the loan closet was great. It was really a collection of a whole bunch of different situations. We don't have any family that lives in town. All of our siblings and our parents live out of town. So it wasn't like a family network that was really helping us out. I had some really good friends, and I had my friends that I called them the entertainment committee. And so they were just really good friends of ours, and their job was to think of fun things to do. And sometimes they would just take my husband, because he really liked baseball, and I can't it's just so boring. I can't stand it. So they would take him to a they take the van and they would take him to a baseball game. And then I actually got some time to do other things. I had another friend who just came over to my house every Monday and made dinner. And actually, as time went on, actually fed my husband dinner. And Monday night was my night. I raced sailboats, and so it was my sailboat racing night. And actually, her husband was crewed for me. And so then she just did it. She did this for 2 years. Every Monday night, she would come over and make dinner, and then I would have that as an opportunity to go do something else. Like I said, there's some volunteer services. We had some PCAs. We had, some aides that came into the house. My husband was a very shy person and really appreciated his alone time. So having a lot of people around was actually not his thing. That was a little bit. It was a little bit more nerve-wracking for me because he really, he didn't want a whole bunch of people. So it's like, okay, well, from 1 to 3 then. And it was almost like a little bit of a negotiating thing here. Because if he didn't want him around, he'd send him home. I'm like, what? What are you doing? But so it was a combination of things. And, it worked. It worked.
Sir?
I just have a question. We have a grandson, 16,
Mm-hmm.
and have become caregiver for our son, who's now in his 7th year.
Wow.
Originally with a 3 to 5 year diagnosis. But I just wondered, what has been the reaction of your family members? Particularly, I don't know how many children either one of you might have had.
Yeah.
But how do you handle it with your own families, the imminence of death much sooner than any of us probably expected? And I just wonder, and I know others in the room that may contribute to that question, to the answer, because is it a learning experience? Have you made them aware of the imminence of death with their mother or father? I don't know how to handle it. Different people handle it differently.
Well, I think that's probably the statement right there. Is different people handle it differently, and I just wanted to handle all situations with grace. Do you know what I mean? And you're not gonna do that, and so you have to cut yourself some slack. But trying to handle all situations with grace, and some people are capable. At a young age, some older people are not even capable at all to handle the emotional situation. My children were in college, and so they weren't living at home when this first happened. My oldest son went and lived in Alaska for a year, and then came back and actually lived with us, which was not my best idea or our best idea, and. Part of it was because I don't think that there was enough age gap between. I mean, could he do it today? Absolutely. At 23, could he? Right? He was still his father's son, and there was still that relationship and that dynamic that didn't really work all that well. My youngest son was still in undergraduate school, and so and their personalities are really different. So. Finally got the oldest one to move back out into an apartment, and then that went. Then he was actually really capable of being very helpful because he would come over and he's like, okay, well, Dad and I are going to go for a drive today, and they take the van. And I don't know where the heck they would go. They would just drive all over the place, and he could handle it for a day. He just couldn't handle living there.
It wasn't constant.
Right. My youngest son is very much like his father and is a very shy, quiet person. And I was really, really worried about him. And so I actually, he was going to Madison. So I actually set up with, and I think I got the information from either Ann or Jennifer as to a group in Madison, and I had a friend come and stay at the house for the weekend, and I went down there and I met with him and this group in Madison, And it turns out he just didn't know what to do. And like, it's like, just come home and visit once, maybe once a month or something like that. Just come home for the weekend and visit. You don't have to do anything, just visit, just be there. And like, as soon as he was given an assignment that he could do, then he was fine. Otherwise, he didn't know what to do. My family wanted to be really helpful, but I have a sister, right? I don't have any brothers. And so there's no way on earth my husband wanted my sister in there helping do any of this stuff. There isn't anything. It would have been so uncomfortable for him and you that, you just have to understand that, right? Everybody's just different. And hopefully you can treat each situation with grace, hopefully. I hope.
Yeah, my daughter was married at the time we got the diagnosis, and actually had a baby like maybe a year later. So my grandson has vague memories of his grandmother, and but I tell you what, almost every weekend, they would come down to our house from St. Michael. So I tell you, that was phenomenal. That's quite a hike with one kid and then two kids eventually. And my son lived nearby. So he and my wife had a standing date to watch So You Think You Can Dance. So,
Nice.
And he would give me a spell if I needed to run errands or something. He'd come over and take care of her, which was helped her go to the bathroom. So a little bit of an eye opener there for him, I think. One thing we did, and this is not a product plug, but Hallmark sells recordable books where you can use your own voice to read the story. And my wife did 4 of those for the grandchildren.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, they still listen to them, and so I thought that was a good idea. I thought I'd pass that on.
Very nice.
Yeah, and you don't want to go too long because when your voice goes, obviously that's not going to work anymore. What else? My wife has a sister who lives in Denver, and she came up every couple of months for a weekend just to be with her sister, so that was nice. Anything else?
Speaking of recording, I have a note here because this is one of the things I wanted to make sure that I said. One of the things that was challenging for my husband, like we had this collection of caregivers, and it was, there's probably 20 different people coming to my house at different times, right? For schedules and things like that. And it's like, okay, so he was a little bit fussy about certain things, and particularly brushing his teeth. But anyway, how he liked things done, and then having to communicate that and then keep re-communicating that to this host of people that eventually were helpful. We got an iPad, and I had my son video me doing whatever the task was. And so then I was talking about it, and I was doing it, and then he could play this for whatever caregiver happened to be there, even multiple times. And so the caregiver said that they really liked it. My husband really liked it because then people did things the way he preferred. And then you could kind of repeat it. And so that was probably one of the best things we did. It was the best use of iPad I've ever had. So it was a suggestion that really worked for us.
Yeah,
going on the video.
Yeah, no, that's a good
thing.
one.
But, yeah.
Did either of you use hospice services?
Yes. In home.
We got in a hospice program towards the end, and the doctor came out, for the interview with the patient sort of thing, and Kathy was pretty far gone at the time. So we didn't really use hospice per se. The doctor on Tuesday, when he saw her, Kathy asked how much longer she had, and he said, well, based on what you're eating and drinking and your health, he said maybe 6 to 8 weeks. And she died Thursday night. So,
Do you wish you would have started hospice earlier or when? Not
well, she had hurt her back, and so she was in pain from that. And I wish she didn't want to, basically.
I would echo that.
She looked at it that hospice is the end. That means I'm going to die. And so she was putting it off as long as she could. But what they had was medication that you can take for the pain. And I started her on it then after the doctor was there. And I think that's why she did die so quickly, was because then she was relaxed and she wasn't struggling anymore. So I wish she had done it earlier so she would have been out of pain, but she had to do it when she was ready. And so the nurses and the doctor were wonderful. I mean, they were very caring and very nice people.
So I would echo a pretty similar experience. So it was hospice was supposed to be in-home hospice, and maybe like the last week is when we used it, and we could have done a lot more. I don't think that he was ready to do that. I don't think he was really particularly interested. One of the things that I wished he would have considered, because it would have allowed, more friends to visit and be available to him and keep him company. So the question is whether he wanted that or not, or whether he understood that that's what it would allow. I'm not really sure. I think I wish we would have started it sooner, but it's definitely available.
Why would that have changed visiting hours or hospice versus not? So there's in-home kind, and then there's like you can go to hospice house, and that was one thing that he had thought about, but elected not to do, which is completely fine. But I think if he would have considered that when things were very difficult, that it would have allowed people to come and visit for very short periods of time and say hi to him. At a hospice facility.
Yes, that's what I meant. So I can see where people wouldn't really want to do that, but I could see that being a really nice option.
Do you think it would have been easier on the family having your husband in a hospice facility?
Gosh, I don't know. So So a very good friend of mine's mother passed away, not from ALS, just she was 87, and that it was just the end of her. And so the last week that she was alive, she was in a hospice facility, and as far as the family was concerned and friends, people could stop by at lunch, they could stop by after, right? And I think that it worked really, really well for everybody. And being one of the friends that visited, right? And it's like, oh wow, that could have been really nice. And I mean, because that happened afterwards, and I wished I would have known that it could have been like that. Not that I think he wanted to be any place but home, but there's lots of things to think about.
That was kind of. Kathy wanted to, oddly enough, my wife's name is Kathy.
Everybody's name is Kathy. Yeah.
So when I got the email saying Gary and Kathy, I thought, they're like, whoa. My wife didn't want to go to hospice. And we were fortunate, I'm a big guy. My wife was 5'4". So I could lift her, carry her, position her. So we didn't have problems getting her around. And we had one of the, what the heck do they call them? We had one of the lifts for, so the aides that were in during the day could get her up into a wheelchair to get her to the bathroom or whatever. But when I was home, I didn't have any problem, handling her. and she definitely did not want to do hospice in a home. She wanted to stay home, and so we were able to do that.
So what I found sorry.
No, go ahead.
So what I found particularly challenging, maybe like the last 2 months, was I'm sure you guys are well aware that you don't sleep very much, right? And sleeping is really uncomfortable, and that was going pretty well until maybe like 3 months before he passed away, and then like he would like wake me up 3, 4, 5 times a night. I was like, okay, I can't do this. And so then that means that now you need some in-home help overnight, which he absolutely didn't want to do. But we had some really nice, actually they were nursing students and really, really kind people. And this one girl actually was just amazing. But otherwise, like, I'm not getting any sleep either, and that then is really unhelpful. And I think he was just so uncomfortable, and so I worried about that a lot. But those are some of the things to think about too. Is how uncomfortable you're going to be, and part of it is just repositioning, because he couldn't reposition himself and just needed to have somebody position him probably every couple hours at night, right? So how are you going to accommodate that? And I mean, it didn't go on for very long, right? That was just maybe a couple months, but by then you're kind of tired, right? So, yeah.
How did you get connected with the students?
Gosh,
We, as I'm sure you've all experienced, there are a lot of companies
Yep.
that do nursing or
yep.
what do
Home
they call
healthcare.
home health care. Yeah,
Yep.
different titles for the whatever. But and we had some good days and we had some bad days.
Yes, you need to interview.
Well, even the interview sometimes.
Yeah.
But at any rate, don't be afraid to say we don't want you coming back anymore. You've got to be able to say that. And we did at the end there, the last probably year or so. We got in with a company that mostly hired nursing students, and that was the age that you got were nursing students, and wow, made a big difference.
Yes.
And so, like I said, tell them you don't want that person anymore. Give them a shot. Maybe they've got somebody better in the wings, but don't be afraid to say we don't want this person anymore.
So I think. Okay. Keep interrupting. Go for your question.
I don't want you to end what your thought is.
I was to say there was like a fair. There was like a home health aid fair or something like that. Just like they have RV shows and this kind of stuff. And so we got and I don't remember when it is. I'm pretty sure. Did I get that information from you, Jennifer? I don't. And at any rate, there are quite a few companies. Right, and we actually had several that we worked with. Maybe what? It might have been through the social worker that I got that information. Right.
It was a good resource. So if you've done an ALS clinic, that social worker there also may have some input about that.
Yeah.
Now.
Sorry.
Did either of you have to with your spouses, talk about ventilators at the end?
Talk about what?
Ventilators, if they
Oh.
were-
Yes. Yep.
Yeah,
So
we
did.
Well, when earlier on, not just ventilators, but the feeding tube, for example, we had went to the hospital, got checked out and everything. Actually had an appointment to have one put in, and then my wife decided that she didn't want any artificial aids, so no feeding tube, no ventilator. She didn't want to do that. She didn't want to prolong it. She said, yeah, I might be able to go on several more months or longer. He says, but it's at the end of it when I'm going to be ready for it to be done. So she chose not to. But that was her choice.
So my husband made the same choice, but I think part of it too depends on what your onset is, right? And with him, it was in his limbs. And so those were some of the later symptoms instead of some of the earlier ones, right? But he elected not to do that.
And I want to stress again that these are our experiences. They aren't yours or your loved ones. This is just how we handle things. So,
Yeah, but everybody makes their own choice.
It's great of you to do this.
Yeah. Well, I have a couple things that I wrote down here that were really things that worked really well for us. And so one of I call it the red cooler concept, but it was just great. So there's like websites where you can have people sign up to provide help and stuff, and that never really worked for us. And there's a couple other things like that where people can, we'll do your yard, we'll do this, we'll do that. I didn't have kids living at home, so I didn't need a lot of carpool services, and so everything else was not like really all that scheduled. But the red cooler, and I think I read about it from some online blog post or something like that. And so I had my friend manage the red cooler, and it sat on my front porch, and people would sign up to cook something, and then they put it in the red cooler whenever, and then I get home from work and oh my God, there's beef barbecue in my red cooler with a salad. And then I would do the dishes, I put them back in the red cooler, and they'd come and pick them up, and it's right. And so, I not every night by a long shot, I couldn't eat that much food anyway. But, maybe once or twice a week, somebody would put something in the red cooler.
So you have the red cooler out every...
Yeah, I just left it on my front porch. Nobody bothered it. And then I put the clean dishes back in there, and then people come and collect their own dishes. And it's like elves or something. And it sounds maybe a little bit unfriendly with your friends and stuff, but you get home from work and you're just really busy and you're tired and you just need to get on with the program, and having to socialize for 45 minutes with somebody that stopped by to drop something off is probably not what you want to do. And so it, so it kind of solved a lot of those problems. And I don't know that my friends necessarily want to come in and socialize either, because they were busy. And so people just drop stuff off in the red cooler, and it's so. Cool. What is that story? The Shoemaker's Wife or something like that, where the elves come and do the stuff at night? Yeah, it was great. So I really like the red cooler. That worked really good.
Do people know what the red cooler is all about?
Well, so
How do you advertise it?
one of my friends, I gave her the emails of a whole bunch of people that I knew that I thought would do it, and then she would ask people to sign up, and she had a calendar or something like that, and so people could just sign up. So a friend managed it for me. Yep, right. So it kind of worked out pretty slick. Let's see the other thing. Go ahead.
gentleman back here.
Yeah.
I have a question. You feel free not to answer, but so Sarah joined hospice in July, and she was given 3 to 6 months. But to me, she seems normal, and so this question is really personal, but I'm curious what it was like in the final days. Did you know that they were going to die, or did it seem sudden? Were they normal? I don't know, because I'm scared that I'm gonna just wake up tomorrow and she's gonna be dying, and I'm not gonna know what happened. I guess it's gonna seem more of a surprise because I'm not really ready.
Well, like I said, for my wife, and maybe you've experienced this too, but she would plateau. So she would get noticeably worse and then stay the same, and then get worse and stay the same. Towards the end, when we were thinking about the hospice, she had been kind of going on the down, and I kind of had to. She couldn't speak very well. Her lungs were just starting to go. So I and then repeat it and so on. Like I said, it was the hospice doctor came in on Tuesday. He got 6 to 8 weeks, and she died on Thursday. So, I was taken by surprise. I really thought I had more time. That was a shocker. But yeah, I knew it was going to be real soon, just from what the hospice doctor said.
So, like I said, Monday will be the 5th anniversary. So, this is actually really kind of sad. But so my father-in-law, my husband's dad, he died 9 days before my husband did. And I think that kind of took the wind out of his sails a little bit. And so, gosh, it was like November 1st or 2nd, my father-in-law died, and then he passed away on the 11th. And what we did is, obviously there's no way he could go to his dad's funeral. But we FaceTimed in with relatives and stuff, and so which was kind of cool because he could have it sitting on his lap, and so I actually looked at the ceiling fan so that nobody would see his face and how sad he was and stuff. And so I think that kind of precipitated maybe a little bit earlier demise, but I wasn't expecting him to make it past the first of the year anyway. So 2 months or something. And I remember I had a meeting in the house with a social worker and some caregiver representatives because I just needed to get more people in to help because the overnight stuff was getting really, really challenging. And, we were having a meeting in this house, and my friend came in and was spending time with my husband while we had this meeting. And, we were all set and we got the plan, and he died that night. It was like 3 hours later. I'm like, well, not expected. It was not what I expected. But.
So there wasn't like specific physical signs?
So at this point in time, he was choking a lot. And so he had a choking episode that had been going on for quite a while. And I think that, I mean, it's like all these combinations. I think he chose, actually. I think he picked that time.
My wife died overnight, so Friday morning was when I found her. And like I said, she just been going down and just like went to sleep normally, and so yeah, it was a surprise.
So I don't know if this is the romantic answer or not, but after this meeting, we were able to make a 1-floor living arrangement in our house, and so we had a bed that actually it happened to be in the TV room, but we left the TV there, and so he was up in bed, and so I was just sitting next to him, and this was after all these meetings, and we were. He finally stopped choking. It was kind of relaxing, and I was just sitting there, and he just stopped breathing. Right, and so the romantic part of it is like I was there, right next to him. He wasn't by himself. It really freaked me out, though. I must admit, because I didn't know what was happening at first.
Having your spouse pass away in your house.
I thought it would be, but no.
It wasn't.
No.
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 And afterwards, you did.
I thought it would be, and it wasn't. It was. No.
No, because she was where she wanted to be, so
No.
it didn't bother me.
I worried about that for a long time prior to this happening. And I must admit, so the first thing I did was I called the social worker, and that kind of started the process, and I absolutely could not watch them take him out of my house. But other than that, I still live in the house today. I thought it would be the first thing I'd sell, right? And I thought there would be all sorts of, ghosts, if you will. And no, it's like not a problem.
So looking at that space or walking in that room
No.
does not bother you?
No, it is so we had like a handicapped shower built into this room, and it's now my beer brewing room. So it's been repurposed. Well, it's fair, and it was something that he liked to do, so it's fine.
We had a king size bed. Well, I had my side, she had her side, and for a long time I still slept on my side because that was my side. And then I got to thinking about that. Well, I'm washing the laundry and half of it hasn't been used. So now I you know, 1 week, well, I do 1 week on my side, 1 week on her side, and then I wash it.
You mentioned bed, and that's a question I was going to ask. You never went to a hospital bed home for your loved one?
So that's one of the things that you can actually get out of the loan pool, and we tried it, and he just didn't like it, and so we got. There comes a point in time. Well, I couldn't sleep there anymore, right? So we got it was like a double bed that I don't. It's not a Sleep Number bed. I don't know, the ones that the heads and the toes raised, right? They're all over the TV on ads, right? And he was actually really comfortable in that. Because you could get the feet up and you could get the back up. And he didn't like the hospital bed, but I think he might have tried it too soon, right? Because it definitely has like a spot that your butt goes, right? And I think that was really uncomfortable for a while, but then the problem became you lose your ability and you just start sliding down, right? And so Gary's was bigger than his wife. I mean, I was a lot smaller than my husband. And seriously, I would stand on that bed like this and I would move him. That's how I would do it. So that's where like I said, I think maybe we thought about it too soon.
Did you use bed boards? Or I'm always afraid that moves sideways. If it's sideways, we have and bed that goes up and down and all.
Yeah.
But I'm always afraid that he tends to get his feet sideways, and I'm afraid he's going to fall out of bed. So during the night, I'm waking up to make sure his head's still there, but his feet's still there. And we do have a bed for it, but I still worry about that.
So I don't recall that being a problem. And so we had a lift too, and I was other than the repositioning in bed, which was brute force, right? The bed comes up and then you get the harness. All that stuff was actually quite easy for a much smaller person to accommodate. I mean, he outweighed me by 100 pounds. It was like no problem. So.
Just a bed rail on your bed.
We have just a
Pardon?
small one from the loaner closet. I put his walker and wheelchair up against the side so he can't get out.
I don't recall there was much rolling around going on.
So to use the lift.
Hoyer.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
it. That's it. Yeah, that one. Yeah, it's like a Y. Yeah.
Oh. So you had no problem using the lift?
Mm-mm. No, that worked. Those things worked really, really well. And actually, I had the people that from one of the healthcare places come over and train me on how to just use a belt. And I could do it if I had to. You put a belt around their waist, and and if you get the motion right, it's actually not very hard to do. But the Hoyer lift, it had wheels that went under the bed, right? And then it had a Y over it, and then there was a strap. And so, like, if I got him up, I could, put the strap around his back, and then you just use. It was pretty slick. It was great for chairs too, because you just.
If you're curious about these things, go through the clinic, PT or OT.
Yeah.
Go through the training yourself before you think you need it.
We've done it.
Yeah, we've done it. We have a Hoyer lift sitting in our bedroom, but it's got a sheet over it, and the main reason it's there is to make sure she remembers to be careful and not fall down.
No,
We haven't had to use it yet.
No, it's in my bedroom in the corner with the sheet over it because I'm giving it the stink eye.
Yeah.
I think just one quick question. Both of you your partners seem to have a peaceful death.
I think so.
Was that facilitated by any medical not a catch question.
Yeah.
But was the medication that was being taken at the time, did it facilitate the peaceful death?
So he didn't want to take any of that stuff. I will make a comment on antidepressants though. Okay, that so he didn't want any. He wanted to be fully present, and so he didn't want to do any of that. So that was fine, but he did take antidepressants maybe for a year and a half, and that was actually really huge, right? And I can't say it's like, oh, like Jekyll Hyde, but he was just much more relaxed and I think happier, right? And less worrying or something like that. And so that was probably the thing that I thought was really helpful.
My wife insisted she was not depressed, she was merely sad. And so she did not do the antidepressants. And, for her condition, she seemed to be in, good spirits. I do think the drugs hastened her death just because they allowed her to relax. They were opiates, and they brought a big bag of them, so I had to haul them down to the police station to get rid of them afterwards.
Yeah.
I did not take them. But yeah, I think they just because they let her relax.
I thank you so much for your candid
Oh my
input.
goodness.
Thank you for listening to this bonus episode of Connecting ALS. We have a lot more great content planned for the upcoming month, so be sure to visit connectingals.org for ways to subscribe and connect with us via social media. Connecting ALS is produced by me, Garrett Tiedemann, from the headquarters of the ALS Association's Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota chapter in St. Paul, Minnesota.